Okay, I'm going to officially welcome us all today, and I will start with introducing myself. I'm Jen Heaton-Jones. I'm wearing a different hat today. I'm wearing my Connecticut Recycling Coalition President hat, and I'm really happy to see that we have our 4 Connecticut material recovery facilities here with us today, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves so that they give themselves the proper introduction. So I'm going to start with Win Waste. You're going to unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Keith LeBron. I'm the operations supervisor at the MRF over in Stamford, Connecticut.
Thanks, Keith. How about Murphy Road?
Good morning, Jonathan Murray. I'm the Director of Operations for Murphy Road Recycling, including the All-American MRF in Berlin, Connecticut.
Thank you, Jonathan. And Casella?
Good afternoon, Mike Kroll here. I'm the market area manager for Casella on the resource solution side of the house, the recycling side of the house. Glad to be here.
Thanks, Mike. And last but not least, Oak Ridge.
Hey, Joe Sardone, head of transfer and recycling at Oak Ridge Waste and Recycling. Also run the MRF that's being built in Shelton, Connecticut.
Thanks, Joe. And I'm really pleased to be able to introduce Cheryl Baldwin. Would you like to introduce yourself, who will be our moderator for the afternoon?
Thanks, Jen. I was about to say good morning, but I guess it's officially afternoon. Cheryl Baldwin from Connecticut Deep. Thank you.
Thank you. And I do want to mention that Cheryl Baldwin and myself work with I have to remember which boards I sit on, the Recycle CT Foundation, which was instrumental in creating the Universal Recycling Guide, What's In, What's Out. And Cheryl's been with the Recycle CT Foundation from its conception, and I have been on the board for the last several years. So I really appreciate her time today to be our moderator. Before we get started, just a reminder that this is a series of webinars, and the next webinar will take place April 10th, and we will cover paper and fibers. We're breaking down the what's in, what's out by category. The purpose of today's webinar and this series is to help our material recovery facilities not get this. This is actually a tipping floor of recycled material coming from curbside. It looks like a pile of garbage. Bad recycling habits, as you can see, equal poor quality, resulting in higher tip fees. And our goal today is to train the trainer so you can have improved, better education and outreach to the public. If you are not familiar with the Connecticut Universal Recycling Guide, I hope today will be an eye-opener. And this is about reducing contamination, increasing value of the material we have. And before we get started, I will, just for the benefit of those who just might be joining us today and have never seen how a material recovery facility operates, I'm going to entertain you for 5 minutes, and then I'm going to hand it over to Cheryl. Bear with me while I share my sound, and it's going to go to a YouTube link. So give me 1 second to switch everything.
Call your doorbell camera company and cancel the subscription. This brand new subscription-free mini Wi-Fi camera provides more security features than traditional. Residential single-stream material is brought to the MRF and dumped on the tipping floor. It is then loaded into a large feeding container at the start of the system. Advantages of the drum feeder include improved productivity, more effective pre-sort, and even flow of material. While the machine feeds the system, the loader operator is free to perform other duties like organizing the tipping floor. From the drum feeder, the material is inclined to the first pre-sort station, where workers remove large, bulky items. From this pre-sort, the material drops onto an OCC screen. Smaller pliable material falls through the stars while larger rigid material like cardboard bounces over them. The smaller material that falls through drops onto a glass breaker fine screen to break and remove the glass and other 2-inch minus sized material from the stream. The broken glass moves to a glass cleanup system for further separation to make it clean and sellable. The system screens material into 4 fractions: oversized, fines, heavies, and lights. Remaining material now goes to a second pre-sort. Workers remove any small trash items, grocery bags, and small cardboard that fell through the OCC screen. Removing film and small OCC prior to the single stream screens is key to the system's success. The material drops onto an anti-wrapping ONP screen. This is the first of 3 screens designed to separate fiber from containers. The anti-wrapping feature dramatically reduces maintenance. After several hours of operation, the screen has virtually no material wrapped around its shafts. Large 2D fiber is scalped up and over the screen and goes through quality control, where contamination is removed by hand. The clean fiber end product flows into a storage conveyor for future baling. This process is repeated on 2 more screens with progressively tighter spacing to maximize fiber recovery. Each of the 3 screens has its own QC line with access to a conveyor that takes any flat containers back to the container line. The 3D objects left on the 3rd screen bounce back and are conveyed to an optical sorter for final fiber removal. The Tomra AutoSort 4 recovers any remaining fiber prior to the container sort line. It identifies 2D sheet paper as well as 3D boxboard. Ejected fiber goes back to the mixed paper QC line for recovery. The remaining material is conveyed to the container recovery line, which is comprised of 3 additional AutoSort 4s. The containers then travel under an overbelt magnet. This powerful magnet lifts all ferrous cans from the transfer conveyor and discharges them into a storage bin for baling. The material that passes under the magnet drops onto a manual container sort line. With all other commodities recovered, the remaining material drops off the manual sort belt onto an eddy current separator. The eddy current propels aluminum cans over a separation gate and onto a quality control conveyor. The clean aluminum is then transported to the appropriate bin via an air transport system. The final recovery station is located on the main platform to allow one sorter the chance to recover any fibers or containers. All stored material goes through 2 balers, including a high-speed, no-shear Bolograph HBC 120S. Both machines are capable of baling all commodities to achieve true baler redundancy. Contact us for more information on this system or for a tour of the facility.
You're on mute, Jen.
Thank you, Cheryl. I double muted myself so that there wouldn't be feedback. Sorry about that. So there you have it. You all saw how a material recovery facility operates, and I'm going to turn my camera off and I'm going to let you guys take the show and let you share your screen, Cheryl.
Great, thank you. So am I all set? Can everybody see it? Hopefully.
Yes.
So, in trying to figure out how we're going to have this conversation, it was suggested that I do a small or a short introduction and then basically go through different products, and in this case, plastic products. I can tell you for the last, I I don't know, since 2017. I've probably met with the facility operators every other year. Though I'm excited that Keith and Mike are here. I have not had a chance to grill them and put them through the process. So today is going to be fun. So let me just start by reminding everybody that the last waste characterization done in Connecticut was in 2015. So while this data is a bit dated, you can see that our contamination level is probably very similar. I would imagine the facilities probably have a better understanding. Some towns may be under 10. Most towns are probably about 15, and there are probably some municipalities at over 20. When the waste characterization done, we not only understood what was still in the waste stream, but also did a characterization of the recycling stream. And what we found were the 5 top contaminants: plastic bags, bottle caps, shredded paper, bagged material, and tanglers. And when they went ahead and took out the bagged material, they found about 50% of the bags was actually trash and 50% were clean recyclables. But often facilities are not able to go through those bags because of timing, as well as, who wants to open up a big trash bag. And then we saw that beautiful film with those clean, rotors and shafts that were not tangled. And at some point, I will ask our facility operators how beautiful theirs are and if they are still tangled with plastic bags and other debris. So as a reminder, if you're not familiar with the Universal List, as Jen said, the list was first created back in 2017 with the MRF operators, and these questions were posed to them. I asked them, what materials are detrimental to your system? And we went through everything, including what this series is going to do. Though I must admit, I did not start with plastic. We ended with plastic because it's the harder material. So CRC's got us. They're having us do the hard part first. And so when you look at every single product, I would ask, is this item harmful to your employees? Is it a safety concern? We saw from the video, there are manual pickers at the beginning and at different stages of the system. And sometimes things that come through are harmful to them. Then we have to ask ourselves, are these materials harmful to the equipment? Anybody in manufacturing knows when you have to shut down your system for any amount of time, that costs money. It's the same with MRF operators. When they have to shut down their system, it costs money. And who do you think is paying for that? We are. Municipalities are paying for that. Residents are paying for that. So if we can reduce the amount of harm and shutdown of the equipment, fantastic. And then, of course, we want value in that material. We want to make sure that we are not reducing the value of those commodities that are sold. Because as you're aware, recycling is not just collection, it's processing, it's making into new product so that we can then buy it again. And if they can't sell their products, then we're not recycling in Connecticut. A reminder, we do have mandatory recycling in Connecticut, and these are the items that are mandatory. And if we look at the top part, these are pretty much all the things that go into the quote unquote blue bin, which we now are calling mixed recycling, AKA single stream. And you'll see that it's mostly containers, and then the other side is fiber or paper. So we have glass and metal food and beverage containers, plastic containers, corrugated cardboard, boxboard, etc. However, the program accepts more than what is mandated, and that was decided upon by the facility operators because there are strong markets for certain materials, and they want that material. And so the list was created in a combination of what is mandatory and also what is marketable. And so I encourage educators, recycling coordinators, etc., to think about not what is recyclable, but what is acceptable in this program. Because a lot of things are recyclable, but not everything is acceptable here. Again, we want to make sure that we are putting materials in this program that are can be processed and then sold. All right, so I'm going to start us off easy, warm everybody up. So facility operators, unmute yourself. Here we go. I don't know. I have Keith first and then Jonathan and then Mike and then Joe on my screen. So we'll just go in that order. Or you guys can jump in and just let us know. Plastic egg cartons. Are these in or out? And why? Let us know why these materials are in or out.
You want me to
Don't
jump
be
in?
shy.
Can you hear
Jump
me?
in. Yep.
Yes.
Thanks,
So
Jonathan.
Cheryl, it depends. Like the ones on the left to me are going to be out because they're yellow and they look like styrofoam to me. So those are out. The
Mhm.
ones on the right, without knowing what they are, if they're made of, is it a PP or a PET? So I can't really tell you. But if that came through and it fits the categories we can accept, then it's okay with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is
The one
everybody
on-
else in it?
The
Mhm.
one on the left is a no. The one on the right, to what Jonathan said, it's either PET or polypro. So the optics
Yeah.
will pick up whatever it is.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Everybody else in agreement there?
Agreed. Yep.
Yep, absolutely.
All right. This is just to reinforce because I know everybody's going to ask for the slide deck afterwards. So I'm already just putting it in. All right. I put in fiber just because everybody's going to say, but what about the paper egg cartons? Even though we're not supposed to talk about fiber. So anybody shout out, in or out?
In
And
Yay.
like a
All
quiz.
right. I know. See, I'm putting you on the hot seat. Plastic bottles and jugs, we know those are in.
Yep.
Other plastic jugs and jars.
With no
Yeah.
peanut butter.
yeah,
That's right. No peanut butter. Sorry, I forgot to mark that.
That's
And no
confusing.
liquid either.
yeah, that should be a
Oh, yeah,
side
no
note
liquid.
on all. That should be a side note on all of it is clean. Like to Jonathan and Keith with that peanut butter, that'll have to be thrown out if it comes in with half filled peanut butter in it.
Yep.
And I get an issue with the liquid detergent still in there. And when it goes to bail, it creates a mess.
True that.
Great reminder. Everything should be rinsed. And in the case of peanut butter and a few other things like dog cans and tuna, it'd be better than just rinsing, maybe even just a wash.
Yeah, I always just suggest that we just do the right thing and just put some effort into it. That's all.
Yeah, I
Oh, I
think
like
one
that.
of
Do the
the
right thing and put in the effort.
one of
Nice.
the things that maybe you do with it is that remind everybody that recycling shouldn't smell. Garbage should smell. Recycling should never smell.
Good point. All right. I've got a few more easy ones for you. Though we're getting into difficult territory, yogurt containers.
On the
So on the left is a tub with a lid. In the middle is like a wrapper with like a little yogurt stick. And on the right is a small cup with a metal foil lid.
Left and right for me is okay.
middle is not okay.
Middle's not, nope.
No, definitely not in the middle. Left's okay. And then there's debate on equipment as far as mobility with the two types of material. We get that with the K cups too, so it's difficult, honestly, unless it's separated.
The right is more of a factor of who you're giving it to, right? And what the allowance is, because it's two different materials. If you have the ability to pull them off, which I don't think anybody really does manpower wise, but it would have to be a negotiated acceptable limit with the end user.
All right. So in, out, and in, but no foil lid.
Right.
Okay. All right. Hopefully everybody in the audience knows the answer to this, because if you don't, I wish I had a ruler and I could reach your fingers. So bags, just going to emphasize bags for fruits and vegetables. Are these in or out?
Out.
Out.
These
Definitely
are
out.
so out. And if people didn't know that, no bags, no bags, no bags. All right. juice
Huh.
boxes, and pouches.
So these are a funny one because the ones on the left usually get picked up by the eddy current. The ones on the left usually have an aluminum lining inside them. So this one's kind of a tough one. Sometimes they'll make it into your paper sort, but if they don't, judging on where your eddy current is, the ones on the left get picked up by the eddy current, which make them kind of an out.
Well, usually they're considered in because they're part of grade 51 and you can do them
They
separately
have
with cartons.
correct,
Yeah.
but the problem is the interior lining of that is usually aluminum.
I think it depends on.
Yeah, but you can,
Drink boxes
Yeah.
and things might be a little different. Aseptics.
Yeah.
yeah, usually
Right
you
is
can
out.
bail them up with the milk cartons.
Yes.
So these are not a mandatory item, but it was decided early on to accept them. And what's interesting is I'll mention now, because some of what Joe is saying too, is when we first created the list, all the facilities were somewhat equal. I think Mira was not. And when we were creating the list, I'll just give you the example that when you go hiking, you don't have the weakest or smallest person in the back. You have them lead the hike because you want them to set the pace. And that's how we approach creating the list. But now, years later, we have a lot of the facilities that are upgrading and adding new equipment, which is fantastic. And so USA, of course, has a new facility, and we have Casella who's updating, and Oak Ridge creating a new facility. And so I would think that probably the end of this year or the beginning of next year, we should really return and do a scrutiny of what is in or out based on new technology and what you're able to do. So we'll just leave it at that for now. All right, coffee lids. These are coffee lids for paper cups. Mike doesn't like them. I can tell your face.
Don't want them.
If they make it out there, if they make it through the system, they might make it to plastic, but they're gonna fall out in the glass screen and end up as residue from in the glass. They're flat.
They're
Okay.
too small.
Yeah. Clear lid or bubble lids for plastic cups.
It's the
Same
same
thing.
problem as the other lids. They're gonna
If there's-
fall through the screens.
If they stay attached to the cup, then they're okay with me, but they're probably gonna fall through the screen into the glass. The bigger, the bubble tops will probably might make it if they're not flat.
I mean, if they make it, they're perfect plastic, right? That's the whole question. The opticals will just eat these up.
The problem is losing it before it gets to the optics through, if your first screen or if it gets to your glass breaker, the ones on the left are going through your glass breaker 9 times out of 10. The ones on the right might make the ride easier, but the ones on the left will not.
I think they're in.
Right in.
At this,
I would say left
Yeah.
out.
I'm okay with them in.
I'm good with both then.
well, at this point, they're in. And Joe, I'm going to make a note that we need to return to the conversation. For those in the audience, when we make a decision, it's a really big decision and it needs to be a consensus. And we also have to recognize as educators, because that's why you're all here, we want to educate the public. We need to make sure that answers are either black or white and that we can't have any gray. Because when we're educating the public, it needs to be clear and concise. And so that's the challenge we face when we want to change an item, that honestly, it can take 3 to 5 years for people to turn around and change their behavior. So we have to make a change very carefully. Plastic lids and tubs from jars.
Won't make it.
Nobody
Same
likes
deal.
this one. Everybody's like sitting back like, I don't
It's
wanna
hard to
talk
say
about
because
this
those jar on the right might have a hard plastic lid, but we don't know what it is.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And the one on the left, granted, the one on the left is probably really good plastic and make it, but it might not, it'll do the same thing. So I left in, right, I have no clue what that is. seems to be a
The
hard.
same as the other one, the one that we just had up. One will definitely make it, one might not. The one on the left isn't gonna make it through your screens. And it's good plastic.
Yeah, it's good plastic. So the challenge is it sounds like these are in and you're not sure if you're able to capture them all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. And I think to your, Cheryl, is just to keep that little questionable list going as far as revisiting early next year.
Mhm.
Amongst the operations, right? But I'm not
Yeah.
sure exactly what my final finished product's gonna look like, or what my glass cleanup's gonna look like. I have no clue until it gets installed and we start running.
Yeah. Yeah. Bottle caps.
Left out, right, could be in, they'll get captured by the magnet in the glass system, but the bottle caps on the left, they're just gonna end up residue, and if they end up to the plastic, they don't, it's not gonna make it there, it's gonna come out.
All right. I was told in the past that you wouldn't be able to get the metal bottle caps because I think originally we were going to put them in the list and then we ended up taking them off because we didn't think that that they would get pulled out by the magnet. Where's everybody
Most
else
of
on
us-
the metal?
Most of us have adapted our systems to put a magnet on our glass breakers, right? So the out throws, because you want to try to get the paper clips, the batteries, and the metal caps. So I'm in agreement with Jonathan. Like, it's one of the things that on our new MRF, we made sure we had a good magnet on the glass breaker.
All right. So the list is changing as we're chatting. So I was wrong on the metal. So for folks in the audience, we can tell residents that these are in. But clearly the plastic ones are out. And this is just an item that I created at one point for Recycle CT in terms of cups. And I wanted it to be a segue to talk about why is recycling so confusing. And I wanted to touch upon a couple of things. First, when I do my recycling education workshops, I talk about this slide. So the USDA Economic Research Service tracks new products that are on our retail shelves every year. And what this graph tells us is that we have over 20,000 new retail products put on our retail shelves every year. And then I pause and say, 20,000 new retail products put on our retail shelves every year. And then pose the question, before they put them in packaging, do you think they're having a conversation with me? Of course not. Do you think they're having a conversation with any of our MRF operators? Of course not. And so this slide helps us understand that there's a huge disconnect between product development, packaging design, and the ability to recover those packages. That our MRF operators are here to recover containers and fiber. And as new materials come about, new packaging comes about, we won't know about it until somebody complains. Either it comes in on the line or somebody sends me a picture and says, is this in or out? And I'll be like, I have no idea. And then I'll show the picture to these gentlemen here. And Jonathan usually chimes in first and says, hell no, I don't want that. And then we make sure it gets put into the Recycle CT search tool or wizard, and that the material is in or out. And so this is part of the complexity. The other reason is these arrows. And this is a perfect time to talk about it because most of the arrows are on plastic containers or plastic items. While we may have used these in the 90s, even our regs include number 1 and number 2 because the use of plastic resins was new in terms of using it for food products. We, of course, mandate number 1 and number 2 containers for food and beverage, but ultimately we cannot use these arrows anymore as an education guide because there are so many new products and there are so many different complexities of our products, and the arrows don't really mean anything anymore. They may be helpful for ASTM guides when you're an end market, but they're not really going to help us as educators educate the public. because the arrows are on everything. And so I encourage you to not rely on arrows when you're educating the public. I encourage you to think about it in terms of plastic jugs, tubs, bottles, jars, and trays. All right. You guys, bathroom containers, shampoo and lotion.
Good. No lids, but no caps, but they're good.
Yeah.
Empty.
Again, they just need to be empty.
Empty.
They smell nice though. They
And
don't.
they,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
It's usually the one we
usually-
don't complain about because it's the only thing that smells good.
True.
Great. Toothpaste tubes.
So there's a problem. They're okay because some of them are HDPE, but the problem is nobody gets all the toothpaste out. That's the issue the mills have with the toothpaste tubes and the HDPE.
Yeah. I would put them as out because they're a real problem when you get a lot of them because there's always an exuberant amount of toothpaste left inside them.
So this isn't a great example of how most toothpaste tubes are plastic now. And we even have a brand that says Recycle Me. I would think that they would run through the 2-inch grate myself.
Not with their flat. They'll probably make it. I mean, they could probably, some will
Yeah.
serve, some will make it through, but some will serve, but they have the toothpaste.
When they're
in-
flat, the worst thing you're going to get is it falls into your paper, which you're going to get out anyway.
I don't think a lot of people are putting them in, to tell you the truth. They're not a super
No.
issue for us, but they could be an issue if we're out there advertising it, that they're gonna
Okay.
come in and we're gonna have a lot of toothpaste. And
All
mills don't want them.
We're saying out at this point. We can return to the conversation and see if there's a way of capturing them in the future as you upgrade materials, but okay,
At Jonathan's point, there's not a lot in the stream.
okay. Okay, more bathroom containers, mouthwash and makeup and cosmetics.
Mouthwash is great. One to the right is the same as kind of the toothpaste, I think, and those caps.
Mm-hmm.
Left, yes. Right, no. The problem with the right is the tops of all those end up all over the place. There's always stuff in them, and most of them don't make the ride.
Yeah, and some of them are tiny.
Well, that's why they don't. Yeah, that's why they wouldn't make the ride.
Yeah.
They're going to go through the screen.
Believe it or not, I get asked a lot about contact lens containers.
Won't make it.
This is a great reminder. It doesn't matter if it's plastic. Doesn't even doesn't even matter if it has arrows. It's about containers. So the one on the right is a hard plastic. My guess is it's probably an HDP or polypropylene. But the one on the right, if you can't tell, is more of a soft flexi film.
One on the right's a no.
Yes, left is okay.
Left is okay. Right's a no. It ends up in the paper as a contaminant.
Okay, we've hit the hot topic. So
No.
black plastic.
No.
Oh,
Yes,
What?
that's just
So
for the
there's a
all-American
difference-
version.
I think
But
that's
there's a
one of the
difference
ones that
between, yeah, go ahead, Joe.
I think this is one of the ones that we discussed before, right? Let's keep it as a no. But obviously, if your plant can handle it, then that's something that you work out with your local municipalities or your haulers or whatever, right? All of us have the advantage and the opportunity. Everybody on here has their own hauling company, right? So, you know, a majority of our stuff's coming in from our own people that we can educate when we're picking up at transfer stations and such. So, like Jonathan, you know, I'm on your page, right? When my optics come up, I'm probably going to want those as 5s, right? So I'm, you know, it's going to be there. But for right now, I would keep it as no and just, you know, whatever your transfer stations want to do locally, do locally.
I agree.
Yeah, I think we need to educate that it's a no, but I think we can return to it in the spring when we're updating the list if there are any changes.
I would just say on this slide too, the left is absolutely a no, but I think it's good for people on this call to educate everybody because it's that time of year, getting close to when you're gonna buy your plants and your fruits and vegetable plants, and all of a sudden these black plastic trays start coming in, or white plastic trays full of potting soil, and it's just a mess. So
And they're brittle, so the minute they
Yeah.
hit the screens, they're everywhere. And then they become a contaminant for the rest of our recycling. The potting soil
lot of
ends up
this-
all over everything.
And a lot of the sturdier pots, sometimes we have a lot of local landscapers and nurseries that will actually take them back. So that's a good thing for educators to tell your residents. So when we're talking about black plastic, a lot of people also say, well, what about the lids?
same boat for me.
I
The
say-
lids,
I say no.
I think it's the same boat here. Is you got to talk to your provider. Maybe, you know, you just put it in your program right now. It's in the program isn't out, but I think you got to talk to who's taking your material.
And the problem is, like, Mike's adamant about no for the black plastics, right? So in Mike's situation, if they say yes for that top lid, they're
It's
getting
connected.
the black plastic as
Right.
well.
Right,
So, you know, we have to be realistic about it. It should be a no.
in most cases, yep.
yeah, so this is a little bit different too, in the sense that originally we had agreed on, sorry, something's going on with my PowerPoint. Originally, we had agreed on the black plastic was out and then the lids were in. So at this point, that's what the universal list says, is that these are all in except for the black plastic.
You have those salad ones though, too, typically in the store, they have the black bottom and the PP or PET is connected. You
Well,
know,
we'll move on to those, Mike.
in an inch, okay, fine. Yep.
So on the left is a hard plastic and on the right is polystyrene. And this is how I interpret it. Are you in agreement?
Yes.
Why don't you guys take styrofoam?
No market
That's
for
a
it.
question we get a lot of.
There's no market for it. It'll take you 17 years to get enough styrofoam to make a load, number one. Number two, the only people that really dabble in styrofoam recycling are shady at best overseas. So there's no there. I've never, and Jonathan, Mike, Keith, I don't know if you know. I don't know of anybody in the United States that that'll take the styrofoam.
Agreed. Yeah, we can't move it either. It's not something that we're able to sort out and market. So it's been an out for us for all along. The ones on the left
Yeah,
are both.
it's definitely an out. I mean, to the guy's point too, right? 17 years probably understatement. You have a massive space issue with foam and you have no density or weight. And we've done some Bob's Furniture recycling, and we've actually tried throwing it through a system, and those small pieces just go everywhere. It just adds the contamination possibilities.
Then
Right.
what happens with the styrofoam is the static electricity from just the rubbing on the styrofoam makes it stick to everything. So like for all of us in here, you know, the TV boxes after Christmas that have the styrofoam in it, it hits your screen and it breaks up, then you have little pieces of styrofoam stuck to everything. That becomes another contaminant, right? So it's and there's literally I think in the time that I've done this, I've only seen one person ever inquire about purchasing used styrofoam.
Okay. So more plastic takeout containers. These are just regular clamshells.
Okay with me.
Yeah.
So these containers are a little bit different. They're metal on the bottom and then plastic on the top.
Okay.
Yeah, these are a nightmare for another reason, right? They're recyclable, but the one on the left is going to have everything from cigarette butts to half-eaten hamburgers in it. It's just one of those things like to, you know, please make sure we get these clean. So these are
Yeah.
acceptable and we can deal with them, but the contamination that comes with them, it's rough.
Again, I know a common theme, but it's like, it's just a little bit of effort. It's all we're asking. And we could have some good impacts here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So blue
these are all-
trays and meat
Yeah, yeah, these
trays.
are okay. The one on the right for us, the ground turkey one is, you know, it's typically a 5 polypropylene, good, but it's got the if you don't pull, I mean, I eat a lot of the Shady Brook Farms turkey, and if you don't pull that plastic wrapper off the top, number one, it's keeping all the nasty stuff in there, so it stinks. But also that plastic sheeting is no good. So they have to, it's again, the effort, putting in, cleaning it, washing it, rinsing it, and tearing it apart.
The sheet on the bottom too, because this is all my son eats, right? So there's a plastic sheet on the bottom of the turkey that we
Yeah.
have to educate them to take out too, because they
Correct.
pull that off, they put it back in there. And to Jonathan's point, it's bad, right? So people have to be aware that that makes it into our plastic. That's great. They pop that 53-foot, dry trailer and it smells, you got a problem.
Mm-hmm. Berry boxes and baskets.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Left good, but
The right's usually not any type of plastic recycle. It's usually not a polypropylene. It's usually not a PET. The right's usually an outthrow plastic. I've never seen the right come in and it's, I mean, Mike, I see you nodding your head.
I
You know,
agree. You don't see a lot of that at all.
Nah,
yeah.
I've never
To be
seen
honest,
them
I
come in.
didn't, it wasn't in the list and I was like, I don't know the answer to this. That's why there's no excerpt. I was assuming, I mean, you
I
reuse
think
them or you toss them.
the only thing that it's the strawberries are there. I think the only time those are ever used are for specifically strawberries. Because
Yeah,
it's kind of like a bendy plastic, so you would think it's a polypropylene, but it's not.
it's not, yeah.
Yeah, and in the grocery store, I'm seeing more of the ones to the left with strawberries in them now than on the
Yeah,
one.
the left has strawberries in them now. The right used to be. I would make the right out, to be quite honest with you.
Okay. I can add that. Thanks, Joe. Deli containers.
Good. Those
Yeah,
are
they're
fine.
good.
Yeah.
Just clean them.
Clean, clean, clean.
No,
Straws and stirrers.
Going right with the.
100,
So why are these a problem, you guys?
100 times no. It's just gonna end up in the glass.
Gonna
Right.
fall through.
All falls through. Can't capture it. This definitely feels like a test. I should have been more prepared.
I think you go back to the video that Jen showed at the beginning and they talk about the size
Yeah.
separation in the glass screen. If it's 2 minus, it's gonna go through. And
That's
these are
right.
in any dimension, so if it's 2-inch minus and fairly flat, it's going through. I mean, we do a lot of
That's
size
right.
separation in what we do.
So toys. And
No,
toys are often a great place to hide batteries. How do you guys feel about batteries?
Out.
Big no. That's a,
Recycle them somewhere else.
It's the number
100
one.
times no. You
It's
gotta
the
take the
number one.
batteries
Why-
to Waterbury.
Number one.
That's
So
how I
why are
lost my-
batteries bad, you guys? Why are batteries bad?
So
Well,
on the right, that style of battery is what cost me my plant. Like it's, it was investigated, it was looked into. The problem with them is sometimes they're not combustible right out of the gate. So you run them over, or they're compacted in the back of a truck, whatever the case may be. Once they're crushed, once that outer packing is gone, you're going to get a fire. It's just a matter of when, it's not a matter of if. And the problem is the size of these at the bottom, and these 3 gentlemen will attest to it. That battery's at the bottom of a pile. You have 250 tons on your tip floor. You don't know there's a fire in that pile for hours. Hours. And by the time you realize there's a fire, you are in deep, deep trouble, right? Because it's become a volcano inside that recycling pile. these are probably the single most, other than hypodermic needles, I think this is the single scariest thing to all of us on this call that operate facilities.
Agreed. They've caused us trouble every day. It's down to the small as a vape battery, and it
And
doesn't
that's,
take much to get them going. And we pick them off. We're picking batteries off the line every single day of the week and fighting these things. And they're terrible. We've put in fire rover systems, extra deluge systems. We've got looking at different technologies to detect them for us on the line because they're there. And we're spending copious amounts of money to try to deter these, and we don't know what the answer is, but they have this one doesn't have it. Many of them have a recycling symbol right on the side. And people
correct.
know what to do with them, so they throw them in their toter for the recycling. It's a big issue. I thank you for bringing it up, and hopefully people see it as a big issue. It's a big issue for us.
And
There's
for
another-
all of us, what John said, the vapes, it's out of control. It's completely out of control. People are throwing vapes into the recycling at an exuberant pace right now. And all kinds of vapes, the big ones that look like car mufflers, the little tiny ones. And that's, that's the bigger problem for me is the little tiny ones. Each one of them has a detachable lithium ion battery in it. And they're small, man. They are very hard to see and they are extremely dangerous. And not just as it pertains to equipment, but, all of us have, multiple employees inside our places, right? Those fires are fast and they are violent. And it's a real problem.
Thank you for
Jen,
sharing that.
Jen, are you available to give everybody an update? It's my understanding that there is an EPR bill right now talking about these types of batteries as well as maybe other consumer batteries. Do you want to give us a quick update on the impact that could have on this issue?
Well, we're hoping it will have a positive impact where the manufacturers and producers will be more responsible for end of life, including the public education and outreach, more enhanced labeling on all batteries. It is House Bill 5226, if anyone's interested in watching it. It did have a hearing at the end of February. It moved out of committee. It moved out of LCO favorably, and it's now looking at its fiscal analysis. And I think the other thing that's positive is it has an overwhelming number of co-sponsors. So I'm very hopeful that it actually will move and pass this year in the 2024 session. So hopefully that will bring some relief to MRFs. At the end of the day, it still is about public education and outreach and all of us working with those manufacturers and producers to ensure that the public's doing the right thing. So thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
And something else to keep in mind that you never want these things to burn up, but when these things burn, they create a toxic gas emission.
That stuff.
So it's a human safety issue, not just your building and equipment issue
Absolutely.
on many levels.
Yes.
If it wasn't obvious.
Just on the kids' toys, the mixed rigids, Cheryl, they're out. And we've
Mhm.
always agreed they're out. But if you've toured our plant, which I think some people here on the CRC have seen, we pick it, we bale it. The market's terrible. There's no value, but people are still putting it in large quantities of the mixed rigids. So I'm not sure people are getting that message, but we get a lot of buckets. We get a lot of kids' toys. We get a lot of stuff that's considered a mixed rigid. So
Yeah, kids'
Okay,
pools, the step one, like all of us get the step one toys, right? The step one backyard toys, the step one kitchens. So yeah, we get it. And to Jonathan's point, there's zero market. Zero.
And that's what it's all about. If there's no market and it's not mandatory, this program is not collecting them. So the lovely, beautiful coffee pods.
No.
So why aren't coffee pods acceptable?
they're not going to make it. Plus, I don't think they're recyclable with the foil on the top.
So yeah,
And the coffee grounds inside.
yeah, so they're not going to make it through the screens, number one. When they don't make it through the screens, all the coffee grounds that are inside it end up all over everything. And again, right, the the acceptable limits on things. So you'll have mixed paper, they'll 2% outthrows or 5% outthrows or 7% outthrows, whatever they set the limit at, right? Plus the insane 10% moisture caps. But when they see black coffee all over something, it's going to be an automatic rejection. It just becomes garbage that we have to pay for.
Right. So I added this slide about compostables just as a reminder to recycling educators that a lot of times residents, if it's compostable, they equate that with recyclable. And just to make sure that your residents are aware that that is also out. It may be compostable, but it's not accepted in this particular program. And then this slide is just to remind everybody, everybody keeps saying the 2-inch, the 2-inch mesh, the 2-inch grate. And this is what it's about. Anything that can fall into that 2-inch square is going to contaminate their glass. And there's a lot of stuff that comes in, this is just a small example, but all of these things can contaminate their glass.
Absolutely.
There's probably a lot of other things, but these are the things that are most common that I've seen in pictures.
You did a good job.
And
Cheryl.
anybody-
Those are the things we find. You did a good job. If you looked in our pile, that's what you're going to find.
Yeah. And anybody that puts sharps and tampon applicators in your recycling bin, oh, your karma, man's going downhill, gotta say. And so this is a great reminder too for recycling coordinators to understand and remember that we have lots of different programs in Connecticut. We have
Hey,
a trash
Cheryl?
program. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Can you change that recycling bin? The next slide. So that recycling bin shouldn't be used. So that recycling bin, when it rains, that recycling bin,
Yeah.
everything in there that's fiber is unusable. So we should
So
also try to start moving our customers and our residents away from that, right? Because we live in the Northeast.
mhm. Good point. Just remember that municipalities often have to pay for those containers, and we still have a lot of municipalities that use boxes.
But
And not
that's
all of them
something
are
that should
blue.
be out. Like if we're doing what's in, what's out, those should be out.
Watch it, Joe. They'll put them in the bin, and then we'll end up with them in our mixed rigids.
That's right.
But that, you know what I mean?
So
Like
this
we're
is just
doing,
an example of how towns collect, Joe, and you're right. And we can talk about that more when we're talking about fiber. That's an excellent point. But we do still have a lot of municipalities that collect by little, 18-gallon boxes. And that's a cost to them, especially if they're doing municipal pickup or it's a municipal collection program. But I will definitely make a note that we need to discuss the issues of moisture and wet cardboard and wet fiber. But the point I wanted to make is that there's different types of programs in Connecticut. We have trash, we have recycling, we have yard debris, we have food scrap programs now. Everybody has some type of a bulky waste. We have a textile program, we have a paint program, we have an electronics program. There are programs that collect plastic film at retailers. And then, of course, I just add Oscar the Grouch because, we have to laugh a little bit about the programs that we have. But the point is that not everything goes in the mixed recycling bin. And as Joe said, if you can afford carts, it'll help it will help retain the value of that fiber, which we'll talk about more when we talk about paper. So everybody's been talking a lot about bulky rigid plastics, which are quote unquote acceptable. Quote unquote recyclable, but not necessarily acceptable in this program. Do you guys get a lot of these?
A lot of baskets, a lot of clothes baskets. Hopefully there's no clothes in them sometimes.
tons of closed baskets.
I
Tons
know,
of
I remember what,
crates too.
tons
I
of
get
what?
Crates too.
Crates. We get tons of those crates.
I know, I remember Tom Gaffey saying that they would get a lot of coolers. And if anybody, can imagine those gentlemen or those men and women on the front line picking, and a cooler comes flying by you, that's definitely could be harmful. So there's reasons why the bulky plastics don't come through that system. However, it doesn't mean you can't collect them, but it's coming up with a different collection system for bulky rigids because they're definitely recyclable. So I know we collect primarily food containers, but I do get a lot of questions about these weird little gift boxes. I put
Yeah.
that they're out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're out. They get destroyed.
Yeah,
Definitely.
they get destroyed.
Yeah, they
They
don't
either
make it.
crack or they bend. Yeah.
Yeah, they're usually in a million pieces in the glass.
Not good plastic.
All right.
No.
We're almost done here.
Oh, that's
No,
Some of these are easy. I wish Tom DeVivo was on the call. I know what he'd say about the Soda Stream bottles.
Wow, I can't believe I'm not commenting. I love Tom. I do. He's a good guy.
Yeah. And of course, COVID brought lots of food delivery programs, and this was one of my favorites. This weird foamy stuff and plastic, and it says just put in your recycling bin.
No,
no.
just because it's made from PET bottles doesn't mean we want it.
This stuff
Good
is the
point.
why one of them, anyways. Why the screens, the stars, they get really clogged, and you have to constantly go in there, cut it out, and it just reduces a lot of productivity time.
And if they rip open, it's another thing that's everywhere. It's in your, the optics can't help but pick that up, right? It's going to shoot it where, you know what I mean? Because it's just the airstream shoots it everywhere. So it's in your paper, it's everywhere.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of these actually say they're quote unquote recyclable as well.
No.
Oh,
Not a chance.
definitely not.
And then I'm just going to do a plug and then I'll open it up to questions. For folks that are new to the recycling education world, Recycle CT has a wizard, and it's a search tool where you can put an item in and get a response back about whether or not it's quote unquote in or out. There's also a widget, there's also an app version, and you can encourage your residents to download the app for the responses as well. And just going back to the wizard, this wizard tool is available to anybody. All you have to do is email me. So haulers, collectors, MRF operators, congregations, communities of faith, social organizations, nonprofits, environmental groups, and municipalities can all put this on their webpage if they want to help spread the word of recycling. And we're all using that same list. And then there's also materials on the webpage that you can download and print for your town. And just a reminder that we're doing this because we need to reduce our contamination. And if nothing else, please consider thinking about recyclable versus acceptable and educate your residents on that as well. All right. So everybody survived the quiz.
Thank you, Cheryl.
I don't know if
Thanks,
there's any.
guys. Sorry, there are questions. There's some Q&A. Can you open up the Q&A, and do you want to read them off, Cheryl? Do you want me to help facilitate that?
No, I can. For some reason, I couldn't see anything when I had my PowerPoint open. So can fruit and veggie bags be recycled with plastic film? I can respond to that. When it's crinkly, it's not a film, and it's not acceptable in the wrap program. Black plastic, e.g. takeout container bottoms, in or out?
In for my communities. Throw things
They're
at me.
officially out, but USA will accept them. So does that mean I can come with my my pickup truck and drive them over, Jonathan?
You are not a customer of ours, Cheryl. I'm sorry. No.
But can anybody just self-haul to you? We get
No.
that question a lot too.
They cannot. No self-hauling. It has to come through our communities through the programs that we have set up under our agreements.
And what if a town collected black plastic separately and wanted to haul to you, but they had a contract with somebody else?
We don't have a contract with them. We'd have to talk to them about a contract, but they would not be allowed to.
Thanks for the clarification. So I don't know what CPG stands for. Maybe somebody else does. CPG companies do talk to the end user consumer focus groups about product packaging and feelings about how important post-consumer content percent and recyclability is to them.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means either.
Yeah,
Tiffany, if you want to, it's more of a comment, I guess. Go ahead, Keith.
I was gonna say CPG usually means consumer packaged goods, but I kind of didn't understand the question there.
It sounds like there are some companies that have conversations, but I know we used to very support How to Recycle, which is its own labeling system. But we've had so many issues with labels that they've approved for products that all of you have rejected that I don't support and encourage that as much anymore. A lot of that happened during COVID when all these weird containers started coming out with the food delivery service. And I would just shoot you all pictures and you'd be like, no, 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 even though they all were supported by How to Recycle, which is unfortunate. So they're not talking enough to you guys. That's all I have to say. If our facilities can't handle the material, then it's not going to make it on the list. With regard to using the arrows in educational outreach, while I understand that the numbers coding may no longer be helpful, does the recycling symbol itself still work as a form of communication? It seems to be instantly recognizable as a symbol, and for signs, bin labeling, is it okay? I don't know if you guys want me to answer that or if you want to attempt to answer.
You can answer.
Okay. So it may be a symbol of recycling, but it's also a symbol of recycled. It's a symbol of recyclable. It's a symbol of biodegradable. It's a symbol of compostable. It's basically a cycle system. So I think there's so many issues and concerns that it carries now, at least as it relates to on packaging. I think if you're educating people like, hey, recycle, but we also have the issue of like, there's no symbol for waste reduction. There's no symbol for reuse. I don't know. So I don't know if that answers your question, Anonymous, but you could use the general icon for recycling, but from a packaging standpoint, I don't think it's helpful anymore. I think it just confuses the consumers. Allison asks, regarding toothpaste tubes, to get all the toothpaste out, I will cut open the tube and use up all the toothpaste. If I do that, can I recycle the two clean halves when I am done? These are lovely questions that we get from residents. And so as educators, we need
No,
black
because
or
when she
white.
cuts it in half, it becomes 2 minus. Like she's saying there's 2 halves. So if she cuts that toothpaste in half, it's just going to go through the screen anyway.
Yeah, I agree. It's
So
got a
that's a
shot to
no,
get there, and
Allison.
if it's whole and maybe they cut off the end of it, just the very far end of it, and squeeze it out that way, it's got a better shot at making it. But at this point, the mills are kind of looking for them because they're concerned that they're going to have toothpaste in them. So I think if I had a bunch in a bale that went to the mill, they may say, well, they may just look at it and reject it because of history.
Correct.
But I think there's a little bit of a learning curve for the mills too, because it is HDP, but it's just toothpaste.
So Allison, this brings up a great issue. You asked the question from a personal standpoint, but today we're here all as educators. And so we also need to think about how we would respond to the general public. And so we don't want people sort of cutting the line or somehow, self-hauling black plastic to Jonathan. It needs to be collected in as a system, and that we need to make sure that we're giving consistent messaging to our residents. And so I guess I'll just share that. If it's not on the list, it's not on the list. If folks put in only the large non-black plastic lids of takeout containers, will those items, quote unquote, make the ride? Joe, you're creating new language for us.
I mean, yeah, I mean they'll make the ride. You know what I mean? The problem is, and Mike's already laughing because Mike already knows, like, it's not going to be just the top. You know, so it's up to, like, listen, it's a great, we recycle those, right? A lot of those are PET or polypro, right? It's a good plastic, right? The bigger ones in like the large takeout ones, they're good. It's just what comes with it normally.
Yeah, and again, I guess use the education, right? We're educators. Yeah, if we could honestly say that, yeah, we're gonna rip those two pieces apart every single time. Well, yeah, utopia. But we deal in a lot of reality in our facilities. So I mean, we'd just love to say that yes to everything, but I mean, with the way the systems are set up, it's we do have restraints. We do.
Yeah.
That brings up a good point too. When we first created the list, I had my own learning curve, and I learned that sometimes you guys would say, sure, we can handle that. And when I started pushing and saying, yeah, but do you want it? Can you sell it? Then ultimately you would be like, no, I don't really want it, but I can handle it. And so for educators listening, there's a difference between what facilities can manage and handle and what they want. They can manage and handle when sharps and syringes come through to protect their team, but that doesn't mean they want them. And so we need to make sure that we are giving things that they want and they can sell. Jonathan can handle and manage toys, but there's no value in it. And so there's a cost associated with him pulling those out, just as an example. Can changes to WeWo be finalized by mid-April? We print annual resident handouts in May for distribution in June. Otherwise, our print material is a year behind. I don't think, Brian, that we would, I mean, the list is final now. I don't think we're going to be changing it. We have a couple of facilities that are upgrading. Actually, Mike and Joe, what are your timelines for having all of your equipment in place and knowing what you can handle?
Interrupt you for 2 minutes.
I think Mike's in
Well,
another conversation.
probably
Go ahead, Joe.
April. We're looking at like April. But again, and Jonathan will tell you, it takes a couple of months to figure it out,
Yeah.
right? There's going to be a lot of ins and outs to the system, right?
Mhm.
A lot of it depends on what your inbound looks like, what your mix is, what, with the optics, how much rain you have. There's a myriad of things that are going to come with that, but we should know pretty quick.
Yeah, sorry about that. We'll be breaking ground August 1st, installing equipment starting mid-September, 15 weeks reportedly timeline. We should be end of December, but to Joe's point and everybody on the call, it's really how does the startup work? Does it go smooth?
Right.
What are our issues? What's the opticals look like? What's the finished product look like? So in reality, plus we're in the holiday season too, we're going to be somewhere, we're hopeful by rocking and rolling by the end of January 2025.
All right. So Brian, maybe we can have a new information by March of 2025. So that sets a goal for us to meet again and see how everybody's equipment is running, and then decide if we want to add any materials or take any materials out. And then we'll have to do a little education campaign to make sure everybody's aware of any changes that happen. Tiffany asks, isn't consistency what makes the WeWo guide universal? If the accepted materials differ by MRF, are you going to have to edit the app to screen for which MRF the resident's material is going before they enter what they are looking for in the guidance? I'm going to say no. So we say that glass is accepted, but then we have towns that collect it separately. Right? So we have the universal list of what can go in the blue bin, or in Joe's dream fantasy world, cart. Everybody has a cart. Everything can go in that container. However, some programs might collect different things differently. I don't think we can alter that. And again, this is for the general public. This is try to educate our public on what is in or what is out. The more gray, the more confusion there'll be, and the more people may give up on recycling. Can small glass miniature liquor bottles go in since they are ending up in the glass pile anyway?
Sure. No problem for us.
Yep.
Very few are glass, but yes. Krishna asks, no question, just a comment. This was such a useful, detailed, down-to-earth discussion full of specifics that we as waste recycling educators can use. So thanks, you guys. Jessica asks, can small bottle tops be accepted if they are left on the bottle or the container?
Tops are a no. So one of the biggest problems is, and I was just talking to somebody about this, like the Windex bottles, right? The pump tops on the top of the Windex bottles are different, right? They have to be removed, right? So again, to make things simple and to make things easy, just say no across the board, right? Because when we leave it up to conjecture, it never works out well for us.
Yeah. And I was going to follow up with the pump top. I usually tell people to take the pump top off. Any other thoughts about bottle caps or pump tops?
No.
I agree to the pump top situation, but I mean, you have on your ends list plastic bottles with or without caps attached. I mean, I think we can tell you that if it does make it through the system, that just like all of us, the next user, the mills, are developing ways to capture that material, right? Because it's typically two different types of plastic
Correct.
with the lid. So if it makes it through all the way through, it will get recycled if it makes it through.
But you prefer not to have them, especially loose ones.
Loose one.
Loose one into the glass, right?
Loose ones are out. Yeah.
And I think it's the uniformness of the what's in, what's out, right? So for, my grandmother, right? She's trying to recycle. It says you can keep the caps on it. She's going to put the pump top in there, right? So that's where you get into that gray area. Just make it no, so that way it all stays out. And then maybe down the road we can figure something else out, right? But the minute you have to think about it, a lot of times me myself as a consumer, like I make the wrong decision when I have to think. I'm like, oh wait, they said, oh, let me just do it. It's wrong.
Mike is asking if we can share this recording with residents. This info is fantastic. I personally would say no. Residents don't have enough information and understanding of the white versus black and the gray. But Mike, if you want me to come to your town, I would be more than willing to do a what's in, what's out recycling workshop. And it's much better geared for residents. I don't know if anybody else has a different opinion, but that's mine. Maybe Jen Heaton-Jones has an opinion.
I'm with you. Let's do some more trash talk. This is about train the trainer so that we can provide this information that we're learning today, and we will be learning throughout the following series.
Okay, looks like Brian is looking forward to March 2025 so he can update his recycling brochure. There's a lot of thank yous as well. Those are the only questions that I see, so I don't know if there are other questions or if any of you want to say any last words or any thoughts about the world of plastic. I guess we're still both saying plastic.
I'll just say, because we kind of talked about this yesterday on our prep, is what problems you see. And one of the things that you talked about don't put things in. Please don't put diapers in. People think diapers because it's plastic. We get a lot of diapers. They end up, the problem is they end up with the PP, the polypropylene, because there is some polypropylene in there and they'll end up there and they're problematic for us. We'll go, I guess we're gonna talk about paper, but you talked about lithium ion batteries. The other thing, and I want to talk about it in every call that I'm on, is propane tanks, the little propane tanks. They make it through to the metal, they make it through to the baler, and they explode. And there is enough propane in there to cause problems. So please, can't stress lithium ion batteries and propane tanks enough. And then this is plastic. So laundry detergent bottles and milk jugs, you showed them, but people still put their sharps in there, even though they're not supposed to. We end up with sharps. When those containers are rolling around, the sharps fly around. So they got to make sure the needles are out. Very concerning to us in that. And then large plastic containers, and I don't know if everybody feels the same way. If they can flatten them some, not to have to be super flat, but the large containers will roll on the system and they end up rolling back and we have to retrieve them. If they're flat, doesn't have to be, but as you're educating people, just flatten it a little bit. Just, it helps us. But other than that, bag material and shredded paper, which we're gonna talk about later, I'm sure that shredded paper should be a topic on the paper side, but those are the issues we see.
We will definitely talk about shredded paper. And I'm surprised that you had a straight face when you were talking about diapers and PP. Just gotta say.
You're right.
Anybody else want to share any problems that they're having with different type of plastic products or plastic containers?
A lot of people think garden hoses are plastic. You get a ton of garden hoses. They're not plastic. They're not supposed to be in the recycling stream.
Right. Thank you.
And I just, I mean, for me, you know, a little under 3 years with Casella coming into Connecticut, I have never participated in something like this. This has been very, very helpful to me. It really has. I think it's effective, honestly, with getting the message out this way. I mean, me personally, I'm not here blowing smoke. I'm just saying it was really, really good today. And thank you.
Thank you, Mike, and Jonathan and Keith and Joe. We really do appreciate your time and we look forward to having you back in 2 weeks. So please join us. The next session is April 10th. We will cover paper and fibers. We will send out an invitation where you can register. We'll do our best to streamline the registration next time. We have a new system at CRC, so bear with us. And I really do thank everyone for joining us. We will see you April 10th, and we all gave you 10 more minutes of your life back.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great day.
Thank you.